Wherefore, my beloved brethren, as ye have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation. Notice these several words. With fear and trembling. You say, what does obedience look like? True obedience looks like this. Obey when no one is watching, and obey with fear and trembling. Obey when nobody's watching, and obey with fear and trembling. See, the Bible teaches that we must obey when no one is watching, because we should obey God, not just obey man. And when man's not watching, God is still watching. You say, how can I get to that place where I'm obeying even when I'm not being supervised? Here's what that looks like. It looks like someone who actually fears God. Amen. Ecclesiastes 12. Can you go back to it? Look at verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Here we have the wisest man on earth saying, here's it, here's everything, here's all of life. The conclusion of the whole matter is this. You want to know how to live your life in a way that is pleasing to God. He says, fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Let me ask you something. Do you fear God? I know we'd all say, oh, of course we fear God. Well, whether you fear God or not will actually be shown in how you keep His commandments. I mean, look at the verse again, 13. Fear God and keep His commandments. Fear God and keep His commandments. See, people will often say to me, I love God, I love the Lord, I want to do whatever God tells you to do. And then you say, all right, well, God doesn't want you to fornicate. And they're like, oh, well, I'm just going to take my chances. You don't actually fear God. You're not actually obeying God. You're just doing whatever you want. And God says, look, and we have this idea and we think, oh, well, God must be permitting it. Don't confuse God's patience with His permission. God is long-suffering, but mark my words, be not deceived, God is not mocked. God may give you time, but that doesn't mean He's not paying attention. Look, we all need to develop a healthy fear of God. You say, a love for God? Yeah, we ought to love God. A reverence to God? Yes, we should respect God. But actually just afraid of what God will do to you. Afraid that if you sleep around, God might give you some disease. Afraid that if you go out and get drunk, God might allow you to be killed. Proverbs 3 and verse 7 says this, be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord. Notice how these things are always coupled together. And depart from evil. You don't tell me, oh, I'm obedient. But when no one's looking, I do whatever I want. You don't fear God. You're not obedient to God. If there's one thing that I could, if God would allow me to just input one thing into the heart of Christians and especially young people, it would be a fear of the Lord. Because one day they're going to wake up 40 years old, looking around, realizing they've ruined and messed up their lives. And realize, oh wow, God wasn't messing around.